Emily Sanders had always dreamed of adventure. Ryan Mitchell promised her the trip of a lifetime. But just days after she landed in Australia, Emily was dead, and Ryan had vanished. Back home, Karen and David Sanders were left desperate for answers, while Detective Claire Robinson raced against time to unravel the truth. Was Emily's death a tragic accident? Or was Ryan hiding a darker secret? This is the shocking story of a young woman's fatal journey, a boyfriend with everything to lose, and a crime that left two countries searching for justice. Emily Sanders had always been the kind of person who craved new experiences. At 24, she had already backpacked across Europe, volunteered in South America, and shared every moment on her social media accounts. Her followers admired her adventurous spirit, and her friends often joked that Emily had no fear. But when she announced she was flying across the world to meet Ryan Mitchell, a man she had only known online, even her closest friends hesitated to call it brave. Emily met Ryan on a travel forum nearly 8 months earlier. He was charming, funny, and shared her passion for exploring hidden destinations. They began messaging regularly, swapping photos, playlists, and stories about their favorite trips. Over time, the conversation shifted from travel tips to something more personal: hopes, dreams, heartbreaks, and inside jokes. To Emily, Ryan wasn't just a stranger anymore. He felt like someone who understood her in a way no one else had. When Ryan invited Emily to visit him in Melbourne, Australia, she was thrilled. To her, this wasn't just a vacation. It was the next chapter in a love story she'd been waiting for. Her parents, Karen and David, were less enthusiastic. They worried about her safety, reminding her of the dangers of traveling alone and the risks of trusting someone she'd never met in person. But Emily was confident. She promised to check in regularly, share her location, and keep them updated on every step of her journey. The day of the flight arrived. Emily posted smiling selfies at the Portland International Airport, a cup of coffee in hand, captioned, "Next stop, Melbourne." Her friends flooded the comments with good luck wishes, heart emojis, and travel tips. As the hours ticked by, Emily's posts continued. A photo of her boarding pass, a blurry shot of the plane window over Los Angeles, a quick video during her layover in Sydney. She seemed tired but excited, eager to meet the man she had been dreaming about for months. When Emily finally landed in Melbourne, it was late evening. She messaged her parents that she had arrived safely and waited outside the terminal. Moments later, Ryan appeared with a wide grin and a bouquet of flowers. He was taller than she expected, with warm hazel eyes and an easy charm that immediately put her at ease. Emily snapped one last photo, a quick selfie of the two of them at the airport, and uploaded it to her Instagram story with the caption, "Finally." Ryan led Emily to his car and suggested they head straight to his apartment. He explained that he had planned a special welcome dinner for her and that they could explore the city the next day. Emily, exhausted from the long journey, agreed without hesitation. As they drove through the quiet streets of Melbourne's suburbs, Emily gazed out the window, trying to take in the unfamiliar sights. She arrived at his apartment, a small but modern place on the city's outskirts. The neighborhood was dark and still, with only the occasional porch light flickering in the distance. Inside, Ryan had lit candles and prepared a simple meal. Emily felt a wave of relief. The man she had trusted with this journey seemed thoughtful and attentive. Later that night, Emily posted a single image, a blurry shot of Ryan's backyard with the caption, relaxing after the flight. It would be her last post. By morning, Emily's social media would fall silent, and her parents' texts would begin to go unanswered. What started as a romantic adventure was quietly slipping into something far more sinister. The first 2 days in Melbourne seemed to unfold quietly, at least from the outside. Emily's social media, once bursting with updates, suddenly fell almost silent. Her last post, the blurry backyard photo with the caption, "Relaxing after," the flight, was seen by friends as a sign she was settling in, enjoying private time with Ryan. But to those who knew her well, the silence was unusual. Emily was the type to document everything, from the morning coffee she drank to the sunset she watched. Back home, Karen and David Sanders kept their phones nearby, expecting updates from their daughter. Emily had promised to video call that evening, to introduce Ryan in real life. But as the hours passed, no call came. Text messages from Karen, first lighthearted, "How's Australia, love?" turned into gentle concern, "Call when you can, okay?" And then uneasy silence. In Melbourne, Ryan's apartment was tucked away at the edge of a quiet neighborhood. Few neighbors lived on the block, and those who did often kept to themselves. Ryan was a familiar face to some, but not someone people knew well. His life had been mostly solitary until Emily arrived. The first evening, neighbors reported hearing laughter drifting from Ryan's apartment. They assumed he was hosting a rare guest or maybe a small dinner gathering. But on the second night, the mood seemed to shift. A couple living across the street heard what they described as raised voices, followed by the sound of something heavy, falling. It was late, nearing midnight, and after a few minutes of silence, they decided it was probably nothing to worry about. By the third day, no one saw Emily leave the apartment. No ride shares pulled up to the driveway, no footsteps echoed across the gravel path. The apartment's blinds stayed drawn, and the only movement came from Ryan himself, seen briefly by a neighbor as he stepped outside to the mailbox, his face tense, his movements rushed. Emily's parents, growing anxious, tried calling Ryan directly. His number went straight to voicemail. They messaged Emily's friend Lisa Evans, hoping she might have heard from her, but Lisa hadn't received a word since Emily's last post. That's when Karen and David made the decision to contact local authorities in Melbourne. The police were initially cautious. After all, it wasn't uncommon for visitors to get caught up in vacation plans, forgetting to check in. But when officers arrived at Ryan's apartment, their concerns deepened. No one answered the door, despite repeated knocks. Through the window, officers noticed a chair tipped on its side, a broken lamp, and dishes left scattered across the counter. There was no sign of Emily, and no sound came from inside. The apartment complex's security camera was limited in scope, but footage from nearby streets showed something unsettling. Late that second night, Ryan had been seen leaving his apartment, hauling a large suitcase to his car, alone. Emily was nowhere to be seen. By the end of the day, Emily's disappearance had been officially reported. Police secured a search warrant, neighbors were interviewed, and the first headlines began to appear in the local news. A young woman had flown across the world to meet her new boyfriend, and now, without warning, she was gone. By the time police formally opened an investigation into Emily Sanders' disappearance, worry had spread from her family and friends in Oregon to the Australian media. News outlets picked up the story quickly, drawn to the eerie details. A young American woman traveling across the world to meet a man she'd never seen in person, only to vanish without a trace. The first photographs hit television screens: Emily's smiling face, the cheerful airport selfies, and the last blurry Instagram post. Detectives began their work at Ryan Mitchell's apartment, which had been sealed off with crime scene tape. Inside, the scene was disordered but not obviously violent. A broken lamp lay near the couch, a chair was overturned, and a wine glass was shattered on the floor. There were signs of a meal prepared but not finished. In the bedroom, Emily's suitcase sat partially unpacked, with clothes neatly folded inside. Her passport, however, was missing. Detective Claire Robinson, leading the investigation, immediately sensed that something was off. When neighbors were interviewed, a worrying timeline began to emerge. One neighbor recalled hearing a loud argument the night before Emily's disappearance. Another remembered seeing Ryan carrying a large, dark suitcase down the stairs just after midnight. But perhaps most chilling was the security footage from a camera on a nearby street, which showed Ryan struggling to load the heavy suitcase into the trunk of his car. Police began piecing together Ryan's recent activities. His bank records showed that just hours before Emily's arrival, he had emptied nearly all his accounts. Thousands of dollars had been withdrawn in cash, with no clear explanation. His phone records revealed a series of deleted messages and calls in the days leading up to Emily's disappearance. As the search expanded, Emily's family remained glued to the phone, desperate for any update. Her mother, Karen, gave an emotional interview on local television, pleading for Ryan to come forward and help authorities find her daughter. Friends in Portland organized online campaigns, sharing Emily's face and story across social media, hoping to catch the attention of anyone in Australia who might have seen something. Meanwhile, police tracked Ryan's car using license plate recognition cameras. It had last been seen heading toward a remote area near a national park, nearly 2 hours outside Melbourne. Officers were dispatched to the area, focusing on isolated roads, hiking trails, and small motels where Ryan might have stayed. Inside Ryan's apartment, forensics teams worked around the clock. They found traces of blood on the bathroom floor, which initial tests confirmed belonged to Emily. Investigators believed they were now facing not just a missing person case, but something far darker. As the hours stretched into days, the media storm intensified. Reporters gathered outside the police station. Locals organized volunteer search parties, and online sleuths picked apart every detail of Emily and Ryan's social media histories. The sense of dread deepened with each passing day. Emily was no longer just a missing traveler. She was at the center of an unfolding mystery, one that was quickly drawing global attention, and the man who might hold all the answers had vanished without a trace. 2 days after the search for Emily intensified, a break came that would shatter any remaining hope. Early that morning, a local farmer outside a national park noticed an abandoned car near the edge of a dirt road. The car matched the description of Ryan Mitchell's vehicle. Police were called immediately, and within an hour, the area was swarming with officers, detectives, and forensics teams. The car itself told part of the story. Inside, police found a scattered collection of clothes, an empty water bottle, and a backpack containing Ryan's identification and cash. But it was the trunk that sent waves of horror through the team. Wrapped inside a blood-stained blanket were strands of long blonde hair and faint traces of blood. About 100 yards away, hidden beneath loose soil and brush, a shallow grave was discovered. Emily's body was found there, partially concealed by leaves and twigs, her passport placed on top of her chest, as if in some twisted gesture of apology. The news spread fast. and soon reporters crowded the road leading to the scene, their cameras capturing the grim procession as Emily's body was carefully recovered and transported for autopsy. At the coroner's office, Dr. Priya Patel conducted the post-mortem examination that revealed a chilling truth. Emily had not died from blunt force trauma alone. The injury was present, but it was not the sole cause of death. Instead, the report revealed that Emily had suffered a pulmonary embolism, caused by a blood clot that likely developed during her long-haul flight. It was a medical emergency that, if treated promptly, could have been survivable. Investigators pieced together a devastating sequence of events. Emily, tired from the journey and hours of sitting cramped in economy class, had likely complained of leg pain or shortness of breath after arriving at Ryan's apartment. When the embolism struck, she may have collapsed suddenly, gasping for air. But instead of calling an ambulance, Ryan panicked, faced with the fear of being blamed for her death and possibly hiding his own unrelated troubles. The emptied bank account and deleted messages hinted at financial or personal problems. Ryan made the worst decision possible. Rather than seek help, he attempted to cover up what had happened. He waited until nightfall, packed Emily's body into a suitcase, and drove out to the isolated spot where she was ultimately found. The public reaction was swift and divided. Some saw Ryan as a coward who turned a tragedy into a crime. Others speculated about what he might have been hiding, convinced there was more to the story than fear alone. Emily's parents, however, were left with nothing but heartbreak, their daughter's life cut short not just by a medical emergency, but by someone's selfish and reckless actions. The investigation shifted focus from a search to a manhunt. Ryan was no longer just a person of interest. He was now the key figure in a case that had become a national obsession. Authorities widened their search across state lines, working with international agencies in case Ryan had fled the country. With every passing hour, the chances of finding him slipped further away, but the determination to bring him to justice only grew stronger. As days turned into weeks, the search for Ryan Mitchell intensified, stretching across Australia and drawing in agencies from neighboring countries. Interpol was alerted, airports were placed on high alert, and Ryan's face was plastered across news broadcasts and social media feeds. But despite the massive manhunt, Ryan seemed to have vanished without a trace, leaving behind a storm of grief, unanswered questions, and public outrage. Detective Claire Robinson worked tirelessly with her team, chasing leads that scattered in all directions. Ryan's last known movement was captured on a gas station camera the morning after Emily's body was discovered. He appeared calm, purchasing food and fuel, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his face. After that, the trail went cold. Meanwhile, Emily's family struggled to come to terms with their devastating loss. Her parents, Karen and David Sanders, flew to Melbourne to bring their daughter home. The sight of Emily's belongings, her half-packed suitcase, her toothbrush still by the sink, her favorite travel journal tucked under the bed, was too much to bear. In public, they showed remarkable strength, speaking to the media in hopes that Ryan would be found. In private, they were consumed by sorrow and guilt, haunted by the thought that they had been unable to protect their daughter. A memorial was held in Portland, where hundreds of friends, family, and strangers gathered to honor Emily's life. Photos of her smiling face were displayed alongside flowers and candles, and Lisa Evans, Emily's best friend, spoke tearfully about her adventurous spirit and kind heart. But even in the midst of mourning, the anger remained just beneath the surface. Many believed Emily's death had been avoidable, that had Ryan acted with even a shred of decency, she might have been saved or, at the very least, given the dignity of a proper farewell. As the public clamored for justice, new details about Ryan's past emerged. Investigators uncovered financial troubles, gambling debts, and a pattern of unstable relationships. Friends and former co-workers described him as charming but unreliable, someone who could easily spin a lie and disappear when things got difficult. It soon became clear that Ryan's decision to hide Emily's death wasn't just panic. It was part of a larger pattern of running from responsibility. 1 month after Emily's body was found, the case took an unexpected turn. A hiker in the dense bushland of northern Queensland stumbled across a small makeshift camp. Among the scattered belongings was a wallet with Ryan's ID. Nearby, hidden in the undergrowth, were human remains later confirmed to be his. Authorities determined that Ryan had taken his own life in the wilderness, possibly within days of the manhunt beginning. The discovery closed one chapter of the investigation but opened another: the long and painful process of healing for Emily's family and friends. There would be no trial, no courtroom answers, no final confrontation. For many, that lack of closure left a bitter taste. Emily's story became a cautionary tale about trust, travel, and the unpredictable dangers of meeting strangers across the world. In the end, Emily's memory lived on through those who loved her. A bright light extinguished too soon, caught in a tragedy that no one could have predicted but everyone would remember.